Welcome to part 78 of the Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg, where we explore true crime, urban legends, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, internet mysteries, and more. Quick reminder to click like and subscribe, and the notification bell. On June 7th, 1992, three women mysteriously disappeared in Springfield, Missouri, known as the Springfield Three. Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall vanished without a trace from Levitt's home. The night before their disappearance, Susie and Stacy celebrated their high school graduation by attending several parties. They returned to Cheryl's home around 2:15 a.m. on June 7th. The next day, concerned friends and family visited the house, finding all three women missing. Their personal belongings, including purses, money, and cars, were left behind, with no sign of a struggle except for a broken porch light. The initial response was hampered by a delay in reporting and contamination of the crime scene by concerned visitors. When the police finally arrived, they found the scene eerily calm. Cheryl's bed appeared to have been slept in, and personal items were neatly arranged, suggesting the women had prepared for bed before disappearing. Multiple theories have emerged over the years, ranging from targeted abduction to random violence. One suspect, Robert Craig Cox, a man who had been convicted of a variety of extremely serious offenses, claimed to know the women's fate, but provided no concrete evidence. Investigators do not consider him credible and believe he lied in an attempt to draw out some sort of deal with the authorities. The authorities never offered him any sort of deal, and as such, no further information was revealed. Another theory involves Susie's association with a rough crowd, potentially leading to their abduction by someone from her social circle. Notably, Susie's ex-boyfriend was considered a prime suspect due to his relation to her, and because of his unusual criminal history and pending criminal charges. This ex-boyfriend was being charged with breaking into a mausoleum and robbing gold teeth from skulls at the time of the disappearances. It's been speculated that Susie and potentially her mother would be witnesses in the trial against this ex-boyfriend, potentially giving him a motive to off at least two of the women. However, no conclusive evidence against the former boyfriend was ever located, and he was not charged in relation to the disappearances. Several other leads were explored in the years following the disappearances, but yielded no significant breakthroughs. In 2007, ground-penetrating radar revealed three anomalies under a hospital parking garage, suggesting possible graves. However, the tip was deemed not credible, and the site was not excavated due to the cost and lack of evidence. I do find it unusual that the police took the tip seriously enough to employ ground-penetrating radar, but not seriously enough to actually do anything about it when the anomalies were found. Over 5,000 tips total have been investigated since 1992, however the case remains no closer to being solved today. If you have any information regarding the disappearances of Susie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Cheryl Levitt, please contact the Springfield, Missouri Police Department. While the case is now considered cold, the investigation appears to remain quite active. The Kinross Incident. On November 23, 1953, First Lieutenant Felix Moncla and his radar operator, Second Lieutenant Robert L. Wilson, were on a mission over Lake Superior. This mission would end with both men disappearing and would spark decades of UFO-related speculation. The incident began when a radar station at Calumet Air Force Station, located on Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula, detected an unidentified aircraft in restricted airspace near Lake Superior. This unidentified aircraft was reportedly flying off course by about 30 miles, and the situation prompted the immediate scrambling of an F-89C Scorpion from Kinross Air Force Base. The aircraft, piloted by Monclaw with Wilson as his radar operator, was designated as Avenger Red and tasked with intercepting the unknown aircraft. Guided by ground control radar, the F-89C climbed to an altitude of 25,000 feet and then descended to 7,000 feet to close in on the target. As the jet approached the unidentified object, the radar operators witnessed a puzzling event. The blips representing the two aircraft merged into one. Moments later, the blip representing the F-89C disappeared entirely from the radar screen, as did the unidentified object shortly thereafter. The sudden disappearance of the aircraft triggered an extensive search and rescue operation involving both American and Canadian forces. Despite the combined efforts, no wreckage was found, and no trace of Monclaw, Wilson, or their aircraft was ever recovered. The official report from the United States Air Force initially suggested that the F-89 had successfully intercepted the target. U.S. officials identified it as a Royal Canadian Air Force C-47 Dakota. After the successful interception, the official report indicates that Monclaw then likely crashed due to pilot vertigo. However, this explanation was quickly refuted by Canadian officials who stated that no such aircraft was in the area at the time. Notably, it is unclear why U.S. officials communicated such a story without first clearing it with Canadian officials. The U.S. Air Force's handling of the incident raised many questions, particularly because of their contradictory statements. Initially, they claimed that the F-89 had merged with the radar blip of the unidentified aircraft, implying a collision or close interaction. Later, they suggested the possibility of a misreading of the radar scope, with the final conclusion being that the aircraft likely crashed due to disorientation. This flip-flopping fueled suspicions and led to various theories, including the involvement of extraterrestrial forces. Donald Keyhoe, a prominent early UFO investigator and author, was among the first to propose that the incident was evidence of an encounter with an alien spacecraft. He pointed out the lack of physical evidence, the strange radar behavior, and the Air Force's inconsistent explanations as indicators of a possible cover-up. Over the decades, the Kinross Incident has remained a focal point for UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists. In 1968, reports emerged of aircraft debris found on the shores of Lake Superior, but these were never conclusively linked to Monclaw's F-89. In 2006, a group calling itself the Great Lakes Dive Company claimed to have found the wreckage of the F-89, along with what they described as parts of a UFO. However, this claim was later exposed as a hoax, further muddying the waters of an already complex mystery. The U.S. government's official stance remains that the disappearance was an unfortunate accident, likely caused by disorientation or mechanical failure, compounded by the challenging weather conditions. However, the absence of definitive evidence and the mysterious merging of radar blips continue to provoke speculation. The 1808 mystery eruption is one of the most mysterious volcanic events in history, made especially mysterious by just how recent the eruption was. Despite its significant impact on the global climate, the exact location and details of the eruption remain unknown. This event is thought to be one of the largest eruptions of the 19th century, rivaling the famous Mount Tambora eruption of 1815, yet it went largely unnoticed by contemporary observers. In late 1808, atmospheric anomalies were observed across the globe. Francisco José de Caldas, a Colombian scientist, recorded a transparent cloud obstructing the sun over Bogotá starting on December 11, 1808. He noted that the sun appeared silvery, resembling the moon, and temperatures dropped significantly, leading to frost damage on crops. Similar observations were made by a physician in Lima, Peru, who described unusual atmospheric conditions and sunset afterglows. These reports align with evidence from ice cores in Greenland and Antarctica, which show a significant increase in sulfuric acid layers around this period, indicating a massive volcanic eruption. The eruption injected large amounts of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, which spread globally and caused cooling by reflecting sunlight away from the Earth's surface. Scientists believe the eruption likely occurred in the tropics, possibly in the southwest Pacific, due to the broad geographic spread of its effects. However, pinpointing the exact location has proven difficult. The turmoil of the early 19th century, including the Napoleonic Wars and the independence movements in Latin America, may have diverted attention from environmental observations. This is theorized to be one of the reasons for so few contemporary records discussing the issue. The 1808 eruption had far-reaching climatic effects, which ultimately led to the coldest decade in 500 years. This mystery eruption is thought to have been the first in a series of eruptions, which ultimately culminated in the year without a summer. Also be sure to stay tuned because this extremely unusual climate mystery will be discussed later in this episode. In 1986, Singapore was shaken by the mysterious disappearance of two young boys, To Hong Huat and Kei Chin An. This case, known as the McDonald's boys case, has since become one of the country's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. The name originates from the significant reward offered by McDonald's Singapore for any information leading to the boys' whereabouts. On May 14, 1986, two 12-year-old boys, Chin An and Hong Huat, disappeared on their way to school from Owen Primary School. They were last seen walking together to school after Chin An fetched Hong Huat from his house. They were supposed to attend their 12:55 p.m. class, but neither of them showed up. A classmate of Chin An had offered to take care of Chin An's bag, assuming he would return soon, but he never did. This absence prompted an immediate search effort. The police scoured the surrounding estates and distributed thousands of missing posters across Singapore. The case gained widespread media coverage, and by November 1986, it was featured in the first episode of Crime Watch on Channel 5. This was a popular show in Singapore that was roughly the equivalent of a show like America's Most Wanted, or perhaps Unsolved Mysteries. Several theories emerged regarding the boys' disappearance. One theory suggested that the boys had run away from home. However, their parents refuted this, stating that the boys were well behaved and had good relationships with their families. Additionally, the boys' allowances and savings were left untouched, making it unlikely that they had run away. Another theory speculated that the boys were kidnapped by a syndicate and taken to Thailand, where they were allegedly forced to beg after brutal acts were committed on them. However, investigations into this theory yielded no concrete evidence. There were also alleged sightings of the boys in Thailand, but these were never verified. A more chilling speculation involved a potential ritualistic crime, but this was dismissed by investigators who pointed out the lack of subsequent similar crimes. The Singapore police force expanded their search to neighboring countries, including Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. They also involved Interpol in their efforts. Despite these extensive searches, no tangible information was found. In 1987, the police utilized facial recognition technology to create age-progressed images of the boys, hoping to generate new leads. This effort was repeated in 1994, showing what the boys might look like in their 20s, but it did not yield any new information. Desperation drove the boys' families to raise the reward for information leading to their whereabouts. The most significant push came from McDonald's Singapore, which offered around $45,000 American as reward during their Founders' Day celebrations. Posters were placed in all McDonald's outlets across Singapore to maximize visibility. In 1996, a private investigator claimed to have new information, but this did not lead to a breakthrough. In 2010, a tip-off suggested the boys might be living in Johor Bahru, Malaysia, but this also proved inconclusive. Despite all efforts, the case remains unsolved. with the case having advanced little. The first internet meme. The concept of an internet meme has become an integral part of online culture, shaping how we communicate and entertain one another. The term meme itself was first coined by British evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins in his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene. In this book, he used it to describe a unit of cultural transmission or a cultural analog to genes in biology. However, the specific phenomenon of the internet meme emerged with the advent of the digital age. One of the earliest examples to gain widespread popularity was the dancing baby, often cited as the first internet meme. The dancing baby, also known as Baby Cha-Cha, originated in 1996 as a product of early 3D animation software called Character Studio, created by Michael Gerard and Robert Lurie. This software was designed to showcase the capabilities of motion capture technology, allowing animators to create complex, lifelike movements for digital models. The animation featured a simple 3D rendered baby performing a set of dance moves to a catchy tune. While it was initially a technical demonstration, the animation quickly took on a life of its own once it was shared online, becoming a viral sensation through email chains and early forums. The spread of the dancing baby was accelerated by its appearance on the television show Single Female Lawyer in 1997. In this show, it was used as a surreal representation of the main character's biological clock. As the dancing baby continued to be shared, remixed, and parodied, it laid the groundwork for what we now understand as the viral nature of internet memes. While the dancing baby is often considered the first internet meme, it is important to note that the concept of a meme itself has evolved considerably since then. Early internet culture saw the rise of simple text-based memes that eventually gave way to more complex visual and multimedia memes as internet bandwidth and digital tools improved. I note that the dancing baby is not without competitors for the first internet meme, and I'll be discussing another popular early internet meme and the mystery surrounding it shortly. The disappearance of Helena Anderssen. Helena Anderssen was a 22-year-old woman who vanished in Mariestad, Sweden. On the night of June 13, 1992, Helena attended a party before heading to the Stadshotellet, a local dance venue in Mariestad. After a night of dancing, she called her sister just before the venue closed, explaining she had forgotten her keys. Her sister advised her to take a taxi home, offering to pay the fare. However, Helena never made it home, and ominously a woman's scream was heard that night in the area of her home. The following morning, her shoes and 2 rings were discovered in a grassy area just a few hundred yards from her home. Despite extensive searches and appeals for witnesses, there were no substantial leads. Over the years, various pieces of evidence have surfaced, including possible DNA from her sandal, but these have not conclusively identified any suspect. Several suspects have emerged throughout the investigation. Early on, a local man known for previous violent behavior was detained, but later released due to insufficient evidence. Over the years, police have questioned multiple individuals, some of whom were detained briefly, but released without charges. In 2021, a significant development occurred when a man in his 60s was questioned about the case. Although this raised hopes for a breakthrough, he was eventually released without any charges being filed. The case has spawned numerous theories, from abduction by someone she knew to random foul play. In 2022, Swedish authorities announced the closure of all investigations into the case pending new evidence being found. The Salem witch trials took place between February 1692 and May 1693 in colonial Massachusetts. This episode of mass hysteria resulted in the accusation of over 200 people, mostly women but also some men, for practicing witchcraft, with 20 executions and several others imprisoned. The hysteria began in January 1692 when Elizabeth Parris and Abigail Williams, the daughter and niece of Reverend Samuel Parris, began exhibiting strange behaviors. The local doctor, William Griggs, diagnosed bewitchment, leading to the accusations against 3 women. One of the women confessed, claiming the existence of other witches serving the devil, fueling the paranoia and resulting in widespread accusations. The trials were held in Salem Village and extended to surrounding communities like Andover and Topsfield. Governor William Phipps established a special court to handle the cases, presided over by eminent judges such as Samuel Sewall and William Stoughton. The court controversially accepted spectral evidence, which included testimony about dreams and visions. This type of evidence contributed to the conviction of many, including the first person executed, Bridget Bishop, on June 10, 1692. Among the accused were prominent community members like Rebecca Nurse and Martha Corey, whose arrests caused significant concern. Even a 4-year-old girl, Dorothy Good, was not spared accusations of witchcraft. In a disturbing twist, judicial officials took her story about talking to a snake at face value and confirmed that the snake must have been her quote-unquote familiar, sent by the devil. Just a quick editorial note here. If your trial includes evidence in the shape of visions, and you take the word of a 4-year-old kid talking to a snake at face value, you may be running a kangaroo court. Giles Corey, an 80-year-old farmer, faced a unique fate. Refusing to plead, he was pressed under heavy stones until he succumbed to his injuries. Several theories attempt to explain the causes of the Salem witch trials. One posits that post-traumatic stress from conflicts with Native American tribes contributed to the hysteria. Others suggest that social, political, and religious tensions within the community played a role. Some historians point to a possible hallucinogenic fungus, ergot, which can cause symptoms like delusions and spasms, as a potential cause. The trials began to lose momentum as public opinion shifted. Influential figures like Cotton Mather and his father, Increase Mather, criticized the use of spectral evidence as nonsensical. The governor, responding to the growing skepticism and the accusation against his own wife, dissolved the courts in October 1692. He later established a new court that disallowed spectral evidence, leading to the acquittal and release of many accused. However, the trials did continue on for a short time. Needless to say, without spectral evidence and evidence from talking snakes, convictions plummeted. By May 1693, public opinion had completely turned against the witch trials, and the governor had pardoned all remaining prisoners accused of witchcraft. In subsequent years, the Massachusetts General Court declared a day of fasting for the tragedy, and in 1711, the colony passed legislation restoring the good names of the condemned. Notably, they also took the steps to provide financial restitution to the heirs of those who had fallen under this perversion of justice. In modern times, the Salem witch trials have become indelibly linked to mass hysteria. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy taking a few seconds to promote my work. Remember to like and subscribe and also share this video with your friends and family. Sharing the video with your friends and family is one of the biggest ways you can help my channel grow. The more the channel grows, the more time I have to produce content for you. The Ghost of Anne Boleyn. After her execution in 1536, numerous sightings of Anne Boleyn's spectral figure have been reported across England, particularly in locations significant to her life and tragic death. One of the most famous locations associated with Anne's ghost is the Tower of London, where she was beheaded. Reports of her apparition have been frequent over the years. Perhaps the most chilling encounter occurred in 1864, when a soldier stationed at the tower claimed to have seen a figure resembling a woman dressed in white. When he challenged the figure and received no response, he attempted to stab it with his bayonet. only to have the weapon pass through the apparition, causing him to faint. The soldier's testimony was later corroborated by an officer who witnessed the event from a nearby window. The Tower of London is not the only place haunted by Anne's ghost. At Windsor Castle, she has been seen running through the corridors, clutching her head. Similarly, Anne's spirit is reportedly seen at Hever Castle, where she appears under an ancient oak tree or walking across a bridge on the castle grounds. These locations are closely tied to her courtship with Henry VIII, adding a layer of tragic romance to the sightings. Blickling Hall in Norfolk, another significant site, is where Anne's ghost is said to make a grand appearance every year on the anniversary of her execution. Local legend describes her arriving in a spectral carriage drawn by headless horses, driven by a headless coachman, with her own head resting in her lap. The consistent reports of Anne Boleyn's ghost have led to much speculation about why her spirit lingers. Some paranormal theories suggest that Anne's ghost is an imprint, a residual energy left behind due to the intense emotional and physical trauma she experienced. Others believe her ghost continues to haunt these places because of unresolved issues or unfinished business, a theory commonly associated with restless spirits. Skeptics, on the other hand, point out that individuals who seek out sites related to Anne Boleyn may be primed to have what they believe to be a supernatural experience involving her. The Kryptos Sculpture. Kryptos, a cryptographic sculpture by artist Jim Sanborn, stands enigmatically at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. Since its installation in 1990, Kryptos has fascinated cryptologists, employees of the CIA, and the public with its encrypted messages carved into a copper scroll. Sanborn's design incorporates several complex elements. The main feature is a large copper plate with encrypted messages, complemented by other elements like petrified wood, polished granite, and a small reflecting pool. These materials were chosen for their symbolic significance and their physical and chemical properties, reflecting the themes of accumulation and preservation of information over time. Sanborn, collaborating with a retired CIA cryptographer, crafted Kryptos to feature 4 encrypted passages. While the first 3 passages have been deciphered, the 4th remains unsolved, fueling ongoing intrigue and speculation. The sculpture is not just a sequence of codes, but a layered puzzle, where even the decrypted messages pose further questions. Sanborn has hinted that the complete resolution of Kryptos' mystery requires solving all 4 passages. This element adds to its allure, making it a continual point of curiosity and a symbol of ultimate secrecy. The challenge of Kryptos extends beyond its physical form. It touches on the CIA's own tradition of intelligence and secrecy. Sanborn used a variety of cryptographic techniques, including the Vigenère cipher, to encrypt the messages. The sculpture's difficulty is by design, intended to challenge the best minds at decoding and to reflect the complex nature of gathering and protecting national secrets. Over the years, despite the concerted efforts of professional and amateur cryptologists, the final part of the message resists solution. Sanborn has released additional clues to aid in its decryption, with the most recent in 2020, but the true meaning or answer remains just out of reach. The mysterious stone egg of Lake Winnipesaukee. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone was discovered in 1872 in Meredith, New Hampshire. This egg-shaped artifact is about 4 inches long and 2.5 inches thick. It is carved from a type of stone not native to New Hampshire, features pictographs including an ear of corn, arrows, a moon, spirals, and a face. Its origins and purpose remain a mystery, leading to various theories about its creation and meaning. The stone was unearthed by workers hired by Seneca Ladd, a local businessman and avid collector of artifacts, while they were digging a hole for a fence post near Lake Winnipesaukee. Upon discovering the stone, Ladd took it into his collection, and it eventually passed into the hands of the New Hampshire Historical Society after his death. The Mystery Stone is not just known for its unusual carvings, but also for the perfectly drilled holes at both ends. This suggests the use of advanced tools possibly not available during the time of its supposed creation. This has led some to suggest that the stone could be a hoax, with the holes drilled using modern power tools. However, this theory is not universally accepted, and no conclusive evidence has been found to definitively prove the stone's authenticity or debunk it as a forgery. Over the years, various interpretations of the stone's purpose have been proposed. Initial theories suggested it might commemorate a treaty between two tribes, while others have speculated it could be a Native American birthstone used in rituals. Alternative theories propose that it could have been a tool or even an artifact of Celtic, Norse, or Inuit origin. Today, it is on display at the Museum of New Hampshire History, where it continues to fascinate and puzzle visitors. The Wem Town Hall Ghost. In the small market town of Wem in Shropshire, England, an eerie phenomenon known as the Wem Town Hall Ghost captured international attention. The story centers around a photograph taken by Tony O'Reilly during a fire at the Wem Town Hall on November 19, 1995. The photograph allegedly shows the ghostly image of a young girl standing in the doorway of the burning building. This is believed by many to be Jane Churm, a girl from the 17th century who was rumored to have accidentally started a major fire in Wem in 1677. This haunting image has been the subject of various investigations and considerable debate. While some locals and paranormal enthusiasts firmly believed in the photograph's authenticity, suggesting it was evidence of Jane's restless spirit, skepticism about its veracity grew over the years. Experts analyzed the photo with mixed conclusions. Some suggested that the appearance of the girl could be a trick of the light, or a coincidental arrangement of the flames, while others believed it could have been a deliberate fabrication. Some experts proposed that the image might be a result of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon where the mind responds to a stimulus by perceiving a familiar pattern where none actually exists. This theory suggests that the human brain is hardwired to recognize faces, which could explain why the image of a girl was seen in the flames. The Costa Rican Cave of Death. Costa Rica's Cave of Death is a small yet profoundly dangerous natural formation located on the edge of Poas volcano. Despite its modest size, the cave is notorious for its lethal atmosphere, primarily composed of nearly pure carbon dioxide. This deadly environment is a result of carbon dioxide emissions from geological dynamics influenced by the nearby active volcano and tectonic faults, such as the San Miguel Fault. The gas, heavier than air, fills the cave, displacing oxygen and creating a trap that is fatal to any life form that enters. The cave has become a subject of both fascination and horror, particularly highlighted through social media and tourist discussions. Due to the high levels of carbon dioxide, which can lead to immediate asphyxiation, entry to the cave is strictly prohibited. The local tourist centers use this site to demonstrate the dangers of carbon dioxide. They often perform demonstrations showing how quickly a lit torch is extinguished when introduced into the cave's environment. While the exact source of the carbon dioxide remains a topic of speculation, it is believed to be potentially linked to organic matter decomposing under high pressure. The MV Joyita mystery, often compared to maritime legends like the Mary Celeste, remains one of the most puzzling maritime disappearances in the Pacific Ocean. Originally a luxury yacht built in 1931 and later used as a merchant vessel, the Joyita set sail from Apia, Samoa, on October 3, 1955. It was destined for the Tokelau Islands, a fairly short and simple voyage that was supposed to last only 48 hours. However, the ship never arrived at its destination, sparking a massive search operation. It was eventually found adrift, nearly 600 miles off course, 5 weeks later without a single person on board. The condition in which the Joyita was discovered added layers to the mystery. The vessel was partially submerged and listing heavily, suggesting it had been in distress. Despite this, the ship's design, which included cork lining for buoyancy and a cargo of empty fuel drums, made it virtually unsinkable. The emergency radio was tuned to the International Distress Channel, but damage to its wiring limited its range to just 2 miles, hindering any effective call for help. Several theories have emerged over the years to explain the disappearance of the Joyita's passengers and crew. Some suggest a scenario of mutiny or panic caused by the ship's dire situation, exacerbated by a poorly maintained vessel and a crucial engine failure which left it drifting helplessly. There was also speculation of foul play, such as pirate attacks or even a hostile encounter with a Soviet submarine, though these theories lack concrete evidence and veer into the speculative. Even more speculative theories indicate the potential that the crew was subject to an alien abduction. However, there is no evidence whatsoever to support this assertion. However, perhaps the most interesting theory involves Japanese fishing boats. Local newspapers suggested that the crew had witnessed something among Japanese fishing boats that they weren't supposed to see. The Daily Telegraph in London speculated that remnants of Japanese forces from World War II could have been responsible. Suspicion grew when knives labeled "Made in Japan" were found on board, but these were later dismissed as old and unrelated to the incident. Ultimately, the Japanese theory was largely dismissed on the basis that it had been formulated on the basis of wartime animus, rather than any actual concrete evidence. Investigations revealed that the flooding likely began from a fractured cooling pipe, and the ship's bilge pumps were clogged and inoperative. This would have allowed water to accumulate unchecked. Despite these findings, no conclusive evidence has ever explained why the crew and passengers would abandon a ship that was still afloat and, by all accounts, should have been able to stay afloat. In the absence of survivors or definitive proof, the fate of those aboard the MV Joyita remains a haunting mystery. Theories continue to circulate, each trying to piece together the final hours of the ship's voyage, but the truth continues to be elusive. The cat circles. The phenomenon of cats sitting in circles, often called cat circles, involves cats choosing to sit in various circular formations. Just to be clear, this isn't multiple cats forming circular formations, but rather individual cats sitting inside circles. This can include taped outlines on the floor to naturally occurring circles in their environment. The trend gained significant attention when it was popularized on social media platforms, where users shared images of their cats inexplicably drawn to these geometric shapes. Several theories have been proposed to explain why cats are so often found lounging within these confines. One theory suggests that the circular shape provides a sense of security. In the wild, positioning oneself in a strategic manner is crucial for survival, allowing a better vantage point to monitor for predators and other threats. By sitting in a circle, domestic cats may subconsciously feel they are in a safer, more secure location. Another explanation revolves around the cat's instinctive behavior of turning around in circles before lying down, which is thought to be a way for them to prepare their sleeping area and make it comfortable. This behavior could be a modified version of this instinct, with cats associating the circular shape with a suitable resting area. Comfort and warmth are also cited as possible reasons why cats might choose circles. Cats naturally seek out cozy spots for naps, and curling up in a circle could be an effective way to conserve body heat. This is supported by the fact that many cat beds are circular, possibly reinforcing the circle as a symbol of comfort and warmth. Despite these theories, there remains a great deal of mystery around the phenomenon, with no definitive explanation as to why cats choose circles over other shapes. This curiosity only adds to the allure for cat owners, who often conduct their own experiments to see if their cats will respond to homemade circles. So for all you cat quote-unquote owners out there in my audience, test this out with your cat and leave a comment below. Or hey, perhaps you're a cat and you watch this series. Feel free to comment. Remember, on the internet, no one knows you're a cat. The phrase on the internet, "nobody knows you're a dog," has become a powerful metaphor for the anonymity and fluid identity possible in online interactions. Originating from a 1993 cartoon by Peter Steiner published in The New Yorker, the phrase encapsulates the essence of online anonymity and has since become deeply ingrained in internet culture. The cartoon depicts a dog sitting at a computer, telling another dog that on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, highlighting the disconnection between online personas and real-life identities. Peter Steiner's cartoon, which was first published on July 5, 1993, quickly resonated with the growing number of people who were beginning to, quote, surf the, quote, World Wide Web. The phrase, "on the internet, no one knows you're a dog," became a succinct way to describe the unique nature of online communication. Individuals could present themselves however they wished, with little to no verification of their true identity. The internet in the early 1990s was a nascent space, primarily populated by tech enthusiasts, academics, and early adopters of digital communication. As the internet grew, so did the opportunities for individuals to engage with one another without the constraints of physical appearance, age, gender, or social status. This newfound freedom was both liberating and fraught with potential for abuse. The cartoon itself became one of the most reproduced cartoons from The New Yorker, and its popularity extended far beyond its original context. It has been referenced in academic papers, used in presentations about online security, and even cited in discussions about the psychology of internet use. The internet has evolved significantly since the early 1990s, and with it, the nature of anonymity has changed as well. In the early days of the internet, anonymity was almost the default. Most interactions took place in forums, chat rooms, and other spaces where real names were rarely used, and users were identified by pseudonyms or handles. As social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter became more popular in the mid-2000s, the emphasis began to shift towards real name policies and the idea of a unified online identity. Facebook, in particular, pushed for users to create profiles using their real names and real-life details, arguing that this would lead to more quote-unquote authentic interactions. This shift marked a significant change in how people interacted online, with a greater emphasis on transparency and less on privacy. Despite this, anonymity has not disappeared from the internet. Platforms like 4chan and to a much lesser extent Reddit continue to thrive on the idea of anonymous or largely anonymous interactions. For instance, individuals on 4chan are able to put a name associated with their post. However, the community is generally considered to be highly against this. Notably, with the rise of constant surveillance on every platform, the mystery is no longer who the person you're interacting with may be, but rather how much the platform knows about you. The disappearance of Leigh Occhi. On August 27, 1992, 13-year-old Leigh Occhi vanished from her home in Tupelo, Mississippi, during Hurricane Andrew. Her mother, Vicki Felton, left for work around 7:35 a.m., leaving Leigh home alone. When Felton called home around 8:30 a.m. and received no answer, she returned to find blood and signs of a struggle, but no trace of Leigh. The initial search for Leigh was extensive but fruitless. Bloodhounds and search teams combed through the area, but weather conditions hindered their efforts. Shortly after, the case took a bizarre turn. On September 9th, 1992, a package containing Leigh's glasses was mailed to her home, addressed to her stepfather, Barney Yarborough, from Boonville, a town about 30 miles away. The package bore no fingerprints or DNA, leading investigators to believe it was a ruse to mislead them. Throughout the investigation, multiple theories and suspects emerged. Some suspicion fell on her mother, Vicky Felton. Leigh had reportedly shown up at school with bruises, which she attributed to horseback riding. Some classmates recalled Leigh making troubling statements, though she later claimed they were jokes. Vicky took 3 polygraph tests, failing all, but insisted on her innocence. Notably, it is important to remember that failing a polygraph test can happen for a variety of reasons, and does not necessarily indicate that a person is lying. Another suspect was Oscar Kearns, a man who knew Leigh through church. Kearns had a criminal record, including a 1993 conviction for abducting and assaulting a 15-year-old girl. Despite suspicions, there was no concrete evidence linking him to Leigh's disappearance, and he refused to cooperate with investigators. The case also involved several strange developments, including the discovery of a human skull in a soybean field in 1993, initially misidentified as Leigh's. This error was corrected, and the skull was later identified as belonging to Pollyanna Sue Keith, a woman who had gone missing in 1993. Despite numerous leads and extensive media coverage, Leigh Occhi's whereabouts remain unknown. Theories continue to circulate, implicating various individuals, but the lack of definitive evidence has left the case unresolved. The Cursing Stone of Carlisle. The Cursing Stone of Carlisle is a controversial landmark located in Carlisle, England. Installed in 2001 as part of a Millennium Project, the stone is engraved with excerpts from a lengthy curse originally proclaimed in 1525 by Archbishop Gavin Dunbar of Glasgow. This curse, known as the Monition of Cursing, targeted the Border Reivers, a group of raiders and lawless clans who lived along the Anglo-Scottish border. The Cursing Stone is a hefty granite sculpture weighing over 10 tons, placed in a pedestrian underpass near Tully House Museum and Carlisle Castle. The stone features around 300 words of the original, much more lengthy curse, which called down a series of misfortunes upon the Reivers and anyone associated with them. The origins of the curse lie in the turbulent history of the Anglo-Scottish border during the 16th century. The Border Reivers were notorious for their violent raids, stealing cattle, and causing chaos in the region. The Monition of Cursing was part of a broader effort by the Church and the state to curb these lawless activities and restore order. Priests were required to read the curse aloud in every parish, spreading its ominous message throughout the borderlands. The curse is notably comprehensive, addressing every aspect of daily life and well-being, including the health of people, livestock, and crops. The curse's text is filled with vivid imagery and severe consequences, invoking biblical plagues and divine retribution. It condemns the Reivers in various states of being, standing, sitting, eating, drinking, and extends its malediction to their families and possessions. The Archbishop's curse aimed to disrupt the Reivers' activities and encourage them to abandon their lawless ways. Since its installation, the Cursing Stone has been blamed for a series of misfortunes that have befallen Carlisle, including floods, disease outbreaks, and economic difficulties. Some locals believe the stone has brought bad luck to the city, and there have been calls for its removal or destruction. Despite these concerns, others view the stone as a valuable piece of public art and a reminder of the city's rich history. Despite its grim content, the Cursing Stone has also become a point of interest for tourists and those fascinated by the supernatural. Visitors often touch the stone, sometimes out of curiosity, other times in the hope of lifting any lingering curse. Deja vu, a French term meaning already seen, is an intriguing phenomenon, and the sensation that one has experienced a moment before, despite knowing that it is happening for the first time. The term déjà vu was first coined by French philosopher Émile Boirac in 1876. The concept, however, predates Boirac's naming of it, with references to similar experiences appearing in literature and philosophy throughout history. Despite its long-standing presence in human experience, scientific exploration of déjà vu has been relatively sparse until more recent times. Déjà vu is a common experience, reported by approximately 60 to 70% of people at least once in their lives. It is more frequently experienced by younger individuals, particularly those aged between 15 and 25 years. Factors such as stress, fatigue, and certain drugs have been linked to an increased likelihood of experiencing déjà vu. Many people recount personal anecdotes of déjà vu with varying degrees of detail and emotional impact. For some, it is a fleeting, almost trivial experience, while for others, it can be a profound and unsettling moment. These stories often highlight the eerie feeling of familiarity in unfamiliar settings, sometimes accompanied by a strong sense of knowing what will happen next. Several theories attempt to explain the mechanisms behind déjà vu, though no single theory has been universally accepted. One prominent explanation is that déjà vu arises from a memory-based process. This theory suggests that a current situation resembles a forgotten memory, triggering a sense of familiarity without recalling specific details. This can occur when the new experience shares similarities with a past event. Another memory-related theory posits that déjà vu is triggered by the spatial resemblance of a new scene to one stored in memory. This was tested using virtual reality by researchers who found that people often reported déjà vu when navigating environments with similar layouts to those they had previously encountered. Another theory suggests that déjà vu results from a brief perceptual split, where the brain processes the same sensory input twice in quick succession. The second processing gives a sense of familiarity, creating the illusion of having seen the scene before. Some researchers suggest that neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine, play a role in déjà vu. Dopamine is involved in the brain's recognition processes, and its levels can affect the frequency and intensity of déjà vu experiences. Despite significant advances in neuroscience and psychology, déjà vu remains a partially understood phenomenon. Notably, there are also paranormal explanations for this phenomenon, with some believing that it may be linked to past lives or potentially to the concept of time slips. The Paracas candelabra is a geoglyph located on the Paracas Peninsula at Pisco Bay in Peru. This massive geoglyph, also known as the Candelabra of the Andes, stretches nearly 600 feet from top to bottom and can be seen from as far as 12 miles out at sea. The Paracas candelabra is carved about 2 feet deep into the hardened soil and outlined with stones. Pottery found near the geoglyph has been carbon dated to around 200 BC, linking it to the Paracas culture, a pre-Incan civilization known for its intricate textiles and elongated skulls. However, the exact age of the geoglyph itself is still uncertain, with some researchers suggesting it could be much older. The true purpose and meaning of the Paracas candelabra has sparked a variety of theories. One of the simplest theories posits that the geoglyph served as a navigational marker for sailors. Its prominent location on a hillside and visibility from the sea support this idea. Others believe the candelabra represents the trident of Viracocha, the Incan creator god, who was often depicted with a trident-like staff. This theory suggests that the geoglyph might have been created to invoke the god's protection or favor. Some have also theorized that the candelabra could have been a giant seismograph, capable of detecting seismic activity. Another theory links it to astronomical observations, suggesting it might align with certain celestial events. Some researchers suggest the geoglyph might depict any number of local plants with psychoactive properties. This theory posits that the candelabra could have had ritualistic significance, possibly guiding shamans during their spiritual journeys. Today, the Paracas candelabra remains a popular tourist attraction, drawing visitors who marvel at its scale and ponder its purpose. The death of Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd, known as the Ice Cream Blonde and Hot Toddy, was a beloved Hollywood actress whose mysterious demise in 1935 continues to intrigue many. Born in Lawrence, Massachusetts in 1906, Todd initially pursued a teaching career, but was discovered at a beauty pageant and transitioned into acting. She appeared in numerous films, including comedies with the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy. On December 16, 1935, Todd was found in her car in the garage of Jewel Carmen, the estranged wife of her business partner, Roland West. The official cause was carbon monoxide poisoning, but the circumstances were suspicious. Todd had attended a party at the Trocadero nightclub the night before, leaving around 3 a.m. Her driver, who last saw her alive, noted she was unusually quiet on the ride home and instructed him not to escort her to the door, a departure from her usual behavior. Several theories have emerged surrounding her death. One involves Roland West, with whom Todd had a complicated relationship. They were both business partners and lovers, living in adjacent apartments above their restaurant, Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe. It is suggested that West, in a jealous rage, might have locked Todd out, leading her to seek refuge in her car. Additionally, Todd had a tumultuous relationship with her ex-husband, Pat DiCicco, known for his underworld connections and violent behavior. They had a public argument the night of her death, adding to the suspicion that DiCicco might have had a role. Further complicating the case, Todd received multiple extortion threats demanding money under the threat of harm in the months leading up to her passing. The coroner's findings also fueled speculation. Although the cause was listed as carbon monoxide poisoning, there were numerous inconsistencies. For instance, her car's engine was off when she was found, and there was an unexplained injury on her forehead. I have a sneaking suspicion that Thelma Todd didn't voluntarily end herself. The Silver Train of Stockholm. The Silver Train of Stockholm, or Silverpilen, is an urban legend from Sweden. The story of Silverpilen begins in the 1960s when the Stockholm Metro purchased 8 aluminum trains. Unlike the usual green-painted metro trains, these remained unpainted, giving them a distinctive and somewhat haunting silver appearance. These trains were part of the C5 model and were initially used as test units. Due to their bare and stark look, they were not widely popular among commuters and were often used as backup trains during rush hours. A significant part of the Silverpilen legend is tied to Kimlinga Station. Construction on this station began in the late 1970s, but was never completed due to insufficient demand. Today, it stands abandoned and is often described as a ghost town. According to urban folklore, Kimlinga is the primary station where the Silverpilen makes its eerie appearances. The local saying, "Only the dead get off at Kimlinga," reinforces its sinister reputation. The Silverpilen has been the subject of numerous spooky stories. One common legend suggests that once someone boards the Silverpilen, they might never get off, as the train gets trapped in a time loop, traveling perpetually through the Stockholm metro system. Another version claims that the train appears only once a year at midnight, carrying ghostly passengers who look like the undead. Some tales even suggest that the train can pick up unsuspecting passengers from deserted or unused stations, who then disappear forever. There are various stories from people who claim to have seen the Silverpilen. These accounts often describe sightings of the train at odd hours or in places where trains do not usually go. Some narratives recount experiences of being on board the Silver Pelin against their will, traveling for what felt like months, only to be dropped off at Kimlinga, disoriented and bewildered. The rational explanation for these legends ties back to the unusual appearance and limited use of the Silver Pelin. Despite its spooky reputation, the Silver Pelin was eventually decommissioned in 1996. Parts of the train were repurposed. Some cars were used by the Stockholm Police Academy for training, while others were converted into a cafeteria at the manufacturer's headquarters. However, the stories and sightings persist, keeping the legend of the Silver Pelin alive in Stockholm's collective memory. The disappearance of Joseph Force Crater. Joseph Force Crater, a New York Supreme Court justice, vanished without a trace on August 6, 1930. He was spending the summer in Maine with his wife Stella when he abruptly decided to return to New York for business. On the day of his disappearance, he went to his office, destroyed documents, and moved several portfolios to his apartment. He withdrew $5,000, an extremely substantial sum at the time, before dining at Billy Haas's Chop House with his attorney William Klein and a showgirl named Sally Lou Ritz. Notably, both Klein and Ritz told various stories over the years of what happened to Crater after. According to them, after the dinner, Crater either got into a taxi or simply walked away, never to be seen again. The news of Crater's disappearance broke a month later, sparking rampant speculation and media frenzy. His wife reported his absence after he failed to return for her birthday on August 9th. Authorities launched an extensive investigation, pursuing thousands of leads, but uncovering little. In January 1931, Stella found envelopes in their apartment containing checks, stocks, bonds, and a note from Crater saying, "I am very weary." Some speculate that he was involved in corruption and fled to avoid exposure. Others suggest he met with foul play due to his connections with organized crime figures. There were even widely believed rumors that he was buried under the Coney Island boardwalk for crossing the wrong underworld figure. This theory was reignited by a letter found in 2005 from a woman claiming her police officer husband knew Crater was buried there by corrupt cops on the take from organized crime. Despite the exhaustive search and numerous reported sightings across the country, Crater's whereabouts remained unknown. His disappearance spawned the phrase, "pulling a crater," which was popular in the legal community for decades to describe someone vanishing without a trace. His case officially remains unsolved, and he was declared legally deceased in 1939. The Vanishing Battalion. The Vanishing Battalion is also known as the Sandringham Company or the 5th Battalion of the Norfolk Regiment. This group of soldiers disappeared during the Gallipoli Campaign on August 12, 1915, under circumstances that have fueled numerous theories over the years. The 5th Battalion Norfolk Regiment was composed primarily of men from the royal estate at Sandringham. These soldiers, largely consisting of servants, grooms, and gardeners, were part of a volunteer force that joined the British Army at the outbreak of World War I. They were deployed to Gallipoli in the summer of 1915, where the Allies sought to secure the Dardanelles Strait from the Ottoman Empire. On the morning of August 12, 1915, the Sandringham Company was ordered to advance towards the Turkish positions at Kavak Tepe. The battalion, consisting of 250 soldiers and 16 officers, moved into heavy enemy fire, advancing through thick smoke and artillery bombardments. According to reports, the men continued their advance into a forested area engulfed in flames from the ongoing battle, and were never seen again. The sudden disappearance of the battalion led to numerous theories. One popular account, fueled by General Ian Hamilton's report, described the men marching into a low-lying cloud on the battlefield and simply vanishing. This account was later supported by testimonies from New Zealand veterans who claimed to have witnessed the men disappearing into a cloud. Other theories suggest that the men were captured by Turkish forces and met a grisly fate in Ottoman hands. Despite extensive post-war inquiries by the British government, the Turkish authorities consistently denied any knowledge of the missing soldiers. However, it is notable that the Ottoman government fell and was involved in various different internal and external wars in the wake of World War I. As such, records may have been lost, or perhaps intentionally destroyed during this period. Years later, evidence surfaced that might explain the fate of the battalion. Reverend Charles Pierpont Edwards, who examined the battlefield after the war, found remains and Norfolk Regiment badges. He concluded that many of the men had died in the fighting, and their bodies were either never recovered or misidentified. Notably, the supernatural angle has captivated many, with stories of the battalion being abducted by UFOs or transported to another dimension. Such theories, although lacking empirical support, have been bolstered by eyewitness accounts and the mysterious nature of the event. The tale of the quote-unquote cloud, into which the soldiers vanished, remains a popular explanation among those who believe in paranormal phenomena. While many believe that the men simply became casualties of war and their bodies were never properly identified, the lack of concrete evidence continues to spark interest and speculation. Silbo Gomero is a unique whistled language used on the island of La Gomera in the Canary Islands in Spain. The origins of Silbo Gomero are obscure, but it is widely believed to have been developed by the indigenous Guanches. These were the people who inhabited the Canary Islands before the arrival of Spanish colonizers in the 15th century. After the Spanish conquest, the language may have been adapted to fit the Castilian Spanish spoken by the new settlers, thus transforming it into a whistled version of the Spanish language. It replaces the vowels and consonants of spoken Spanish with distinct whistles, which vary in pitch and length. It generally uses two distinct pitches for vowels, and a series of modulated tones for consonants. These modulations allow whistlers, known as silbadores, to convey the entire range of Spanish phonetics through whistles, albeit with some degree of ambiguity. Notably, the ambiguity is generally cleared by the context under which the individual is whistling. Silbo Gomero is not the only whistled language in Europe. Whistled languages have developed in various regions around the world, typically in areas with rugged terrain where whistling can carry messages over long distances more effectively. In some remote areas of Greece, particularly in the village of Antia on the island of Euboea, the population still uses a whistled form of Greek. However, Silbo Gomero is thought to be the only European whistled language which was developed out of contact from a non-European language. Also, there's something somewhat amusing about the fact that this whistled language developed on the Canary Islands, an island known for the eponymous bird. I guess you could say that this whistled language is for the birds. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy jumping back in for a few quick seconds. You've made it this far, so remember to like and subscribe and also share this video with your friends and family. Exploding head syndrome. Exploding head syndrome is a relatively under-researched sleep disorder characterized by auditory hallucinations. They are described as abrupt, loud, and jarring noises, similar to explosions, that occur typically at the onset of sleep. This phenomenon, despite its dramatic manifestation, is painless and not considered dangerous. The term was first introduced in a 1988 Lancet article by Dr. Pierce, although it had been described in various forms much earlier. Silas Weir Mitchell, an American physician, wrote about similar experiences as early as 1876, referring to them as sensory discharges that mimicked the sounds of explosions. While the exact prevalence is unclear, studies have shown that it's more commonly reported among females. Approximately 16% of college students have experienced the syndrome, suggesting a significant impact among younger populations. The causes of exploding head syndrome are still not well understood. Various theories have been proposed, suggesting everything from minor seizures in the temporal lobe to dysfunctions in the brain's processing of sensory inputs during sleep. Notably, the episodes are generally brief, lasting less than a second, and they primarily occur during the transition from wakefulness to the first stage of sleep. This has led researchers to consider the role of neural misfirings in the brain's auditory pathways as a possible explanation. From a diagnostic perspective, exploding head syndrome is typically identified based on patient history and the characteristic symptoms, as there are no objective tests for the condition. Treatments are equally nonspecific, with management strategies focusing largely on patient reassurance and lifestyle adjustments aimed at reducing stress and improving sleep. Medications are rarely prescribed unless the episodes significantly disturb the patient's sleep or well-being. While the syndrome may be disconcerting, it remains a benign condition, at least according to the official literature. Personally, I think if I was experiencing this syndrome, I may feel it was slightly less benign. The King Otter. The Dovar Coup, often referred to as the King Otter, is a legendary creature deeply rooted in Irish folklore. This cryptid, believed to inhabit lakes, rivers, and other bodies of water across Ireland, is typically described as a monstrous hybrid of an otter and a dog. The creature's name is derived from the Irish words meaning water and hound. Physically, the Dover Coup is depicted as an enormous, otter-like creature, often reaching lengths of up to 7 feet, making it comparable in size to a crocodile. Its appearance is fearsome, equipped with sharp teeth, a muscular build, and dark fur. Further, it is said to have an eerie, high-pitched whistle that it emits when in distress. This horrific whistle is supposed to call its life partner, which will then come to the defense of the Dovar Coup. The most famous legend associated with this creature dates back to September 22, 1722, involving the tragic tale of Grace Connolly. According to local lore in County Leitrim, Grace was attacked and killed by a king otter while she was washing clothes at Glenade Lough. When her husband Terence found her lifeless body, he discovered the creature resting beside her. In a fit of rage, Terence stabbed or beat the beast, depending on the version of the story. However, the dying creature let out a terrifying screech, summoning its mate from the depths of the lake. A second ferocious battle ensued, in which Terence managed to slay the second creature as well. This tale is immortalized on Grace's headstone. The existence of this gravestone has fueled speculation and added a layer of historical authenticity to the legend. Over the years, sightings have been sporadic yet persistent, often concentrated around isolated lakes and rivers in the west of Ireland. This creature has been compared to other water-based cryptids, such as the Loch Ness Monster, and has inspired numerous theories about the creature's origin. Cryptozoologists and enthusiasts have proposed various explanations for the Dover Coup. These range from a species of giant otter, to a descendant of the prehistoric giant beaver, to giant catfish. Thank you to frequent contributor Lauren Redmond for this excellent suggestion, as well as help with pronunciation. Remember to leave your suggestions in the comments, or to join up in the Discord. The Double Sunset. The double sunset phenomenon is a captivating astrogeographical event that occurs in specific parts of the world where the sun appears to set twice in the same evening. This occurrence is made possible due to the alignment of geographical features with the sun's setting position. The phenomenon was first documented by Dr. Robert Plot in 1686 in his book, The Natural History of Staffordshire. Although it has been observed since prehistoric times, The viewing conditions and locations have evolved due to factors such as the Earth's axial precession. This phenomenon has also been documented in other parts of the world, including in Arasso, Italy, and in Tenerife, Spain. In Arasso, the sun can be seen setting twice during winter due to the obstruction created by Mount Riga. In Tenerife, the double sunset aligns with the local pyramids at the summer solstice, suggesting historical significance and possible alignments with ancient practices. The mysteries surrounding double sunsets are often intertwined with local legends and historical narratives. For instance, the site in Guimar is potentially linked with the Guanche culture, indicating a deep-rooted cultural significance that transcends mere astronomical interest. Similarly, in England, the viewing spot from the parish church of St. Edward the Confessor suggests a spiritual or ceremonial importance placed on this event by early inhabitants. The Year Without a Summer. The Year Without a Summer in 1816 was a catastrophic climatic event that disrupted weather patterns across the northern hemisphere. This led to widespread crop failures, food shortages, and social unrest. This anomaly has historically been thought to have been exclusively caused by the massive eruption of Mount Tambora in present-day Indonesia in April 1815. This remains one of the most powerful volcanic events in recorded history. Mount Tambora's eruption ejected enormous quantities of volcanic ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. This created a vast aerosol cloud that reduced global temperatures by as much as 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit over the next year. This phenomenon, combined with the ongoing Little Ice Age, led to what is now known as a volcanic winter. This is a significant reduction in sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, which drastically altered weather patterns. The consequences of this cooling effect were devastating. In Europe, 1816 was marked by incessant rain, floods, and unseasonably cold temperatures, leading to failed harvests and food shortages. The continent, still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, faced one of the worst famines of the 19th century. The severe weather resulted in widespread crop failures in Britain and Ireland, where oats, wheat, and potatoes, famously particularly a staple of the Irish diet, were affected. Food prices skyrocketed, leading to food riots across the continent. In Switzerland, the summer was so cold that a glacier formed in the Rhone Valley, creating an ice dam that eventually burst, flooding the area and killing 40 people. In North America, the effects were similarly severe, particularly in the northeastern United States and eastern Canada. Frosts were reported in every month of the year in New England, and snow fell in June, July, and August in some areas. These extreme conditions led to widespread crop failures. The impact on agriculture was profound. Many farmers lost their entire year's harvest, and food prices soared. This agricultural crisis contributed to a significant westward migration as thousands of families, particularly from New England, moved to the Midwest in search of more hospitable land. Asia was not spared from the effects of the Year Without a Summer. In China, the altered monsoon patterns resulted in devastating floods along the Yangtze River. In India, the delayed monsoon aggravated a severe cholera outbreak that eventually spread as far as Moscow, killing millions. In Japan, which had recently suffered through a severe cold weather-induced famine, the unusually cold weather of 1816 damaged crops. As mentioned, the cause of the Year Without a Summer has traditionally been attributed to the single Mount Tambora eruption. However, modern science is now investigating whether this extreme weather anomaly was caused by the buildup of large eruptions starting with the 1808 mystery eruption previously discussed. The cultural and societal impacts of this year were also significant. Notably, the gloomy and ominous weather inspired literary works, most famously Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, conceived during a cold and dreary summer spent in Switzerland. The lack of oats due to the crop failures is also thought to have inspired the German inventor Karl Dreiss to develop the dandy horse, a precursor to the modern bicycle. It has been speculated that he developed this machine since horses became too expensive to feed during this trying period. The year without a summer is also thought to have led to a significant increase in crime in affected areas, as individuals were forced to the brink. The disappearance of Yelenia Carisi. Yelenia Carisi, born on November 29, 1970 in Rome, Italy, was the daughter of Italian celebrities Albano Carisi and Romina Power. They were an Italian vocal duo who gained international fame in the 1970s and 1980s and were renowned for their contributions to Italian pop music. Before Yelenia's mysterious disappearance in 1994, she was recognized in Italy as a promising young talent. She appeared in a popular 1984 Italian musical comedy film with her parents and later worked as a letter turner on the Italian version of Eel of Fortune. She also pursued academic excellence, studying literature at King's College London, where she excelled. In late 1993, Yelenia embarked on a solo journey that took her from Belize to New Orleans. Arriving in New Orleans on December 30, 1993, she checked into the Leedale Hotel on St. Charles Avenue, a place that would become central to the mystery of her disappearance. Her last communication with her family was a phone call to her mother on New Year's Day, 1994. Shortly thereafter, Yelenia vanished, last seen in the French Quarter of New Orleans on January 6th. Yelenia was sharing her hotel room with Alexander Masekela, a street musician she had met during a previous visit to the city. Masekela, who was significantly older and had a controversial past, reportedly influenced Yelenia deeply, describing him as her master, who opened new intellectual horizons for her. After Yelenia's disappearance, Masekela attempted to use her traveler's checks and showed her passport to hotel staff to settle their bill, but was evicted when the checks were unsigned. One of the most haunting aspects of Yelenia's disappearance is the sighting of a woman by a security guard at the Mississippi River near the Aquarium of the Americas on the night of January 6th. The woman, who matched Yelenia's description, declared, "I belong in the water," before diving into the river and swimming towards the center. Despite her apparent strong swimming skills, she struggled against the current and a passing barge's wake, eventually disappearing beneath the water. This led to a search by the Coast Guard, but no trace of her was ever found, and it has never been confirmed if the woman was indeed Yelenia. Despite numerous reported sightings of her over the years in various parts of the United States and Europe, none have been substantiated. Her father, Albano Carisi, had her legally declared deceased in 2014, 20 years after her disappearance. Notably, a German magazine reported in 2008 that Yelenia was alive and living as a nun in Arizona. This claim has been viewed with extreme skepticism and anger by her family, as the magazine did not have any corroborating evidence whatsoever. It is unclear to me if any active investigation is ongoing into the disappearance of Yelenia Carisi. The Pyramids of Guimar. The Pyramids of Guimar, located on the island of Tenerife in the Canary Islands, Spain, are a fascinating archaeological site that has until recently been virtually unknown. These pyramids, consisting of 6 rectangular terrace structures, are made of volcanic stone and arranged in a specific pattern that has fueled various theories regarding their purpose and construction. The Pyramids of Guimar came to the attention of the world in the early 1990s, when they were popularized by Norwegian explorer and writer Thor Heyerdahl. Prior to Heyerdahl's involvement, the structures were considered by many locals to be little more than agricultural terraces, or mere piles of stones. However, Heyerdahl, known for his interest in ancient civilizations and his theories about transoceanic contact between cultures, saw potential significance in the pyramids. He suggested that these structures could be evidence of ancient connections between the Old and New Worlds, potentially linked to the pre-Columbian civilizations of the Americas. The pyramids are made of lava stone and are constructed without the use of mortar. Each of the 6 pyramids is terraced, with the largest one standing almost 40 feet high. The design of the pyramids includes steps on the western side, leading to the flat top. This architectural style is reminiscent of pyramids found in Mesoamerica, which further fueled Heyerdahl's hypothesis of a connection between the Canarian and ancient American cultures. One of the most intriguing aspects of the pyramids is their alignment. Researchers have found that they are oriented towards the direction of the summer solstice, which suggests that the builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. On June 21st, the longest day of the year, the sun sets in alignment with the western side of the pyramids, casting shadows that align with the structure's terraces. This precise alignment indicates that the pyramids were likely built with intentionality and knowledge, which challenges earlier assumptions that they were merely agricultural formations. There are 2 main competing theories on these pyramids, one of which is clearly much more fascinating than the other. Thor Heyerdahl proposed that the pyramids were part of a broader network of ancient maritime cultures, possibly serving as a stopover point for early transatlantic travelers from the Americas. He argued that the similarities between these pyramids and those in Mexico and Peru could not be coincidental, and might suggest a shared cultural or technological origin. However, this theory has faced significant criticism from the academic community. Most archaeologists and historians argue that there is insufficient evidence to support Heyerdahl's claims of transatlantic contact. Instead, they propose that the pyramids were likely built in the 19th century by local farmers who piled stones cleared from their fields, a common agricultural practice in the region. This interpretation is supported by historical records and the absence of any artifacts at the site that could definitively link the pyramids to ancient civilizations. Notably, some theorists believe that the 19th century farming practices explanation is meant to cover up the true nature of the pyramid and preserve current historical understandings. Akamanto, also known as the Red Cloak, is one of Japan's most enduring urban legends, often centered around the eerie confines of school bathrooms. The legend of Akamanto likely originated in the mid-20th century, coinciding with the post-war boom in Japan. This was a period when school ghost stories began proliferating, possibly as a reflection of the country's psychological landscape during its rapid modernization. Akamanto is described as a malevolent spirit, typically appearing in the last stall of a public or school restroom. The figure is usually depicted wearing a red cloak and a mask that conceals his face, adding to his mysterious and ominous presence. The mask is particularly significant because it obscures Akamanto's face, which is often described as hauntingly beautiful. This detail suggests a tragic backstory, where the figure might have been a victim of unrequited love or extreme vanity, leading to his demise and transformation into a vengeful spirit. Some variations of the story even propose that Akamanto was a handsome man during his life, who attracted too much unwanted attention and eventually succumbed to the pressures of his admirers. The most chilling aspect of the Akamanto legend is the deadly choice it forces upon its victims. When a person is alone in the bathroom, they are approached by a voice asking, "Do you want red paper or blue paper?" The choices offered by Akamanto result in extreme misfortune regardless of the selection. Choosing red paper results in a violent death, often described as being slashed until one expires. Opting for blue paper leads to suffocation or strangulation. turning the victim's face blue. Attempting to outsmart the spirit by choosing a different color or refusing to answer often leads to even more gruesome fates, such as being dragged to the underworld. However, directly telling the spirit that you do not want either paper and telling it to go away is said to work, and the creature will unhappily retreat. Manto is part of a broader tradition of Japanese ghosts, a type of yokai known as yurei. These spirits are often connected to specific locations and manifest as a response to human emotions like fear, shame, or guilt. If you're interested in creepy Japanese ghosts and yokai, I encourage you to check out my Yokai Iceberg video, which includes over an hour of content on these creatures. On March 9, 1997, Christopher Wallace, better known as the notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, was shot in Los Angeles. That night, he had been attending the Soul Train Music Awards and had attended an after-party. Wallace was leaving the event with his entourage when a Chevrolet Impala pulled up alongside his SUV at a red light and opened fire. He was hit multiple times and was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center less than an hour later. One of the most widely discussed theories involves the 90s East Coast-West Coast rap feud, which was characterized by intense rivalry between Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records. This theory posits that Wallace's death was a retaliatory act for the slaying of Tupac Shakur, who was killed 6 months earlier. Another significant theory suggests the involvement of corrupt LAPD officers. The FBI also conducted a civil rights investigation into Wallace's death, but the case was closed in 2005 without any charges filed. Various documentaries and books focusing on alleged police corruption and gang involvement have been produced. However, no hard evidence one way or the other has ever been provided. Another layer of intrigue involves the claim that Wallace's slaying was gang-related, specifically involving the Crips and Bloods. Some theories suggest that the shooter was a member of the Southside Crips, acting independently for financial reasons rather than gang orders. In addition to these theories, some speculate about internal betrayal within Wallace's own circle. For instance, a former bodyguard suggested that someone close to Wallace marked his car for the assailant. This claim, like many others, remains unproven but continues to circulate among fans and conspiracy theorists. Another conspiracy theory that was once popular is that the slayings of both Biggie and Tupac were orchestrated as a conspiracy between record companies. Under this theory, the two artists were worth more dead than alive, and would be worth substantially more if there was rumors that they had been killed as a result of the East Coast-West Coast feud. Despite extensive investigations and numerous suspects, the case remains unsolved. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. Remember to like and subscribe, and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership to support the channel further. I occasionally release videos in early access to patrons and YouTube members, and you can access this for as little as $1 a month. If you would just like to support me on a one-time basis, check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description of this video. Also check out my Lazy Chill Lo-Fi beats on Spotify, YouTube Music, or Apple Music. Just search Lazy Chill Zone on your favorite music app. Shout out to my patrons Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.